Welcome to this World Satsanga held on the 27th of February 2021 in conjunction with Kevin Moore and The Moore Show, and I continue to thank Kevin for the work he's doing for the spiritual population, metaphysical population, in the work he's doing on his YouTube site for the latest episode of the series of They Call Us Channelers. So go on YouTube, check out his Moore Talk or the Moore Show to look at these excellent videos. There's some really good stuff on there. Okay, so let's have a look at the agenda for this particular Satsanga. Got a really sort of a repeat of a previous talk about how to create your own reality. Then we've got quite a few questions. Not overloaded this time, which is good because that means I can spend a bit more time doing probably a more in-depth answer to some of these questions. Although I've looking very quickly scan them, I don't tend to look at them before the Satsanga at all. So it's all usually it's channeled, but I can see one or two of them are going to be very quick answers. So hopefully there'll be some that require an in-depth answer. And at the end we're going to do the meditation on how to create peace in the world, because we actually need that significantly right now. So let's have a look at this question about how to create your own reality. And I've been through this subject before a couple of times, I seem to note, over the last couple of years. And it's really about working with what you know is right within yourself, whether it's spiritual, metaphysical, or physical and around you. And we know that whatever you do, whatever you think, behave and act, whichever decision you make, creates a way in which you interact with event space. And it can also create a way in which you change the direction of your event stream within the event space. And it's the event stream in conjunction with event space that creates something we call a reality. Now, reality can be a number of different types of realities, going from very, very localized to the individual, all through to the largest size, which could be a multiverse size reality. And of course the ultimate reality is based upon the work that the origin is doing. But again, it itself can also create its own reality. But more important thing is, how do we create our reality? Because right now, with things that are happening around the world, we do need to sort of focus on maintaining our own direction, how we want to go, who we want to follow, if we want to follow somebody, or the things we feel to do which are going to be beneficial in terms of our own experiences and how that affects our evolution. So rather than being embroiled in gossip or, shall we say, conspiracy theories or deriding individuals or circumstances, it's about creating a reality around us, an event stream within the event space that is what we want it to be. And we can do that. But what we have to do first is really to disconnect from the things that sort of influence people and could influence us on a regular basis, and therefore undermine the reality that we're trying to create. So if we want to create, for example, a peaceful environment around ourselves where we have plenty of time to do our meditations, if you want to do that, or plenty of time to do other things like doing the garden, reading your books, interacting with others in a nice, caring, robust, loving way, then we have to create the conditions that allow us to do that. And really, to create our own reality is not hard. It's just that we have to be focused on what we do. Everything that we do needs to have focus, and that includes meditation, and it includes being a business person if that's what you're doing. And so what we need to do is to focus on what we are wanting to get out of our reality. Now, if, for example, we want to have a reality that is based upon our desires, then we have to seize happening. So whereas when we see and feel and taste and touch and be something, if that something is going to create a level of abundance, then we almost use the same process to create a new reality around us. And so to start about creating a new reality, we have to sort of write down, remind ourselves what that reality is supposed to look like. How does it feel? What are we doing within it? How do we interact with it? How do we interact with others who are interacting with our reality? or moving in and out of our reality, or whether we're moving into their reality, so to speak. So we have to move into the opportunity to create a list of things that are the components or the structure that enables us to create the reality we want. It may well be that we want to separate things out from the physical, the material side of existence versus the metaphysical or spiritual side of existence. So we can exist in both of them, but keep them sort of compartmentalized from each other, so that we've got the opportunity to do the best we can without having the one interfering with the other, so to speak. So creating this list of what you want your reality to be is very important, and how you would demark between metaphysical or spiritual and materialistic aspects of the physical is also important, and how you would want to have them interacting with each other, that's also important. So that's all part of the list. When you've got your list of what you want to be and how you want to do it, then it can be anything really. I mean, don't think that because you're creating a reality that it has to be, shall we say, perfect. By perfect I mean everything has to be wonderful, everything has to be delightful, everything has to work when it's supposed to work. Just get the bare bones of it first. Make sure that you've got enough to create that reality. You can do fine tuning later. That's important. I mean, and also it doesn't need to be something that's, what you feel is conforming to a set idea of what you think you should be, or how you think the environment that you're interacting with should interact with, for example. So whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, as long as it's law abiding, and let's put this into perspective as well, as long as it's not going to harm others or harm yourself or harm the environment or harm any animals within the environment, it can be whatever you want it to be. So as long as you fulfill those criteria of no harm, okay, then that's good, and that's no harm to anything: the environment, people, animals, self, etc., etc. So that's the most important thing, making sure that your reality doesn't harm anybody. And then from then onwards, your reality can be as bizarre as you like. It doesn't matter, You can do whatever you like as long as you're maintaining a certain criteria of non-harm, and that's great. So once you've created your list, once you've understood the, shall we say, the laws associated with it in terms of how it interacts with others, and it doesn't affect others or harm others, then you can start to build the framework around the list. And that means that you start to look at, okay, when would I want to experience this part of my reality? How would I experience this part of my reality? How would I let this other part of my reality interact with this other part? How would the first part interact with the second part and the third part? So then you start to create the interactivity between the reality that you're creating, and you start to live it. You start to be your reality. You start to perpetuate your reality by interacting with it, sometimes maybe 15, 20 minutes a day. But as you get used to creating your reality and being part of it and seeing how it's benefiting you and your mental well-being, for example, then you can start to add additional time to it, make your reality last for an hour a day, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, and work with it. Be in that reality. It's not hiding from anything. It's not, so we say, divorcing ourselves from what's here. It's simply creating an ability for us to be in our reality, the reality that we want to have, whilst also being here as well, interacting here as well. But it allows us to be in the physical but not of the physical. So if we're creating a reality that is based upon the metaphysical terms, so to speak, or spiritual terms, then we look at how we would work within ourselves to create that, and how we would interact with others to perpetuate that creation of our reality and have that reality interacting with others. Now, clearly, we have to understand how that reality will interact with others in terms of whether they would accept it or not. And the thing is, they don't need to accept it in terms of participating with you. Some might enjoy the participation in your particular reality and how you want to how you want to interact with the greater reality, so to speak. Some may reject it totally, but that's okay. They've got their own reality that they're working with. And sometimes you may interact with their reality temporarily, and they'll interact with your reality temporarily, purely from an interactive basis, rather than actually participating fully, so to speak. So just remember that whatever reality you're creating doesn't mean that somebody else will want to participate with that reality, but there still needs to be interaction within those, or with those two individuals or multiple individuals with their particular realities. And so therefore we get interface realities, where the interaction between different realities and different individuals or different groups of individuals starts to become a condition where we've got individualized interactive realities and the interfacing realities that allow these different realities, or the people within those realities, to interact with people in other realities. So just list it down. Just understand what you want out of existence. If you want people to be nice and kind to you, then be nice and kind to them. Lead by example. Create your reality. Be your reality. Think, breathe, taste, touch. Be the essence of your reality. And then you'll attract people who are attracted to that particular reality, as well as those who want to be part of it, whilst also allowing those others who are not part of it, who don't want to be part of it, to also interact with you at appropriate times. Because we can't really just divorce ourselves off. We can't be totally hermits. We can, if you wanted to, of course. You can totally divorce yourself and your reality and be a complete hermit. And that's another way of doing it if you wanted to. But in essence, that may not be part of our life plan. And a part of our life plan may be to interact with others on a regular basis, so that we can participate in their realities, we can gain from participating in their realities, and they can gain from participating in our realities. And then there's the downstream functions of existence that what we've gained from one reality we can pass on to another reality, for instance, or those in another reality. So creating what you want is really about creating that reality. And if you see anybody who's successful, irrespective of whether it's business, or whether it's psychological success or spiritual success, they all are focused on creating their reality. And people either interact with it or are part of it, or not, as the case may be. And that's when you start to see people becoming very famous or very visible in existence. If their reality is such that it's understood by others, and people want to be part of that reality. And you might want to keep your reality to yourself as well, which is perfectly fine as well. So it's really, again, labelling everything you want, creating a list, and then prioritise it, of course. Which parts of your reality do you want to have operating or operative first? And then once you've done that, you can then start to add things to it. And then, but again, be in your reality. 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. Get that established to understand how it works, understand how you might improve it, and then add the other components on a list to your reality, and then they increase the time. And then eventually you get your reality that's around you all the time, and you'll then start to understand how to interact with others, because you'll have started your reality off slowly. The ability to interact with your reality and people outside of your reality by interacting with their realities will start to become understood and naturalised. So you'll start to do it without even thinking about it. Okay, so that's basically how to change your reality. And the other thing is patience. Some things happen very quickly, even instantaneously. Other things can take a long time. So it's really about understanding and being patient about what's there. If it doesn't happen straight away, reinforce the thought process surrounding what that reality is. Feel it, know it, be it, touch it, taste it, be the essence of that. And again, that reality will start to become part of who and what you are, and what's around you, and what others may be interacting with in due course. Remember, sometimes the universe is a big thing to work with, and the multiverse is even bigger. So sometimes it takes a long time to get the machine working. Okay, so sometimes it goes on its own. So we have to be patient with ourselves, and patient with our process, and patient with in terms of what things we can interact or can add to our reality first, versus what we'd like to. Sometimes the smaller components are better first than the bigger components. Sometimes a bigger component that's slightly off centre of your particular reality is best to introduce first than something which is directly on the reality. Okay, so that's how to create a reality. Very sort of generalised, to be honest, but it gives you an idea of how to do it. But it takes dedication, it takes devotion, it takes basically concentration, long-term concentration as well. Okay, so we've got a bunch of questions here, and hopefully we can go through these and then go on to the meditation. I'd like to think the meditation could be quite long today, we'll see. Okay. Let's go through the questions. There's some joint questions today from FN and US. Okay, and US is the delightful soul who does the transcriptions for the World Satsanga. And FN is a reader of the books, and he's also somebody who's organising workshops when we're out of lockdown. Right, so first question. What are the best 3 fruits or vegetables or herbs that can serve each chakra from 1 to 7? Please list the best foods. Do physical foods serve the chakras less efficiently than things like chakra opening exercises or deep meditation? Well, the chakras basically are nothing to do with the gross physical, other than the fact they support the energetic templates that create the body, the human body. And of course, the first 3 chakras are those associated with the gross physical. So, in terms of fruits and vegetables that are beneficial to the body, anything that's growing in the ground is beneficial. Anything. Root vegetables are particularly good, and nuts are also good. So you can live on vegetables and herbs and fruits in general. Okay. Specifically root vegetables, because their energy is very, very good. All of these things are best eaten raw, but if you want to cook them, then cook them so they've still got this slight crunchiness. They're still a bit al dente, as they call it. Okay, you can still feel them as you eat them. So don't cook them too much, because then you lose the energy associated with them. That's why I say best to eat them raw. I mean, raw broccoli is fantastic, and it's very good for things like cancer as well. And so is raw cauliflower and raw carrots. They're brilliant. Even raw parsnips. Everything is delicious raw. It's just we've got used to cooking things. When we cook things, the energy goes out of them. But physical foods don't actually serve the chakras at all, really. The chakras create the potential for the gross physical. They don't they don't need the gross physical to sustain them. That makes any sense. All they need is the energies and the frequencies associated with what they're working with, what they're predominantly designed to work with. So physical food isn't necessary for the chakras. Absolutely not. What the best thing you can do is, of course, the chakra opening exercises, which are very good, specifically because we start to work with our chakras and understand their needs in terms of making sure they're open, knowing how a chakra feels when it's functional, when it's dysfunctional. Okay, knowing when it's blocked, and finding out if you can clean your chakras yourselves or get somebody else, a healer that you can know and trust, who'll do the work for you. Okay, so gross physical food doesn't matter for the chakras, although chakra opening exercises and other exercises to do with connecting with the chakras is good. Next question. Are the obtaining evolutionary gains or content from true energetic self-entities that incarnate via souls? Are we giving tithes to the like we do our guides and helpers? No, the don't gain. Well, everything that interacts with everything or everybody that interacts with everybody else gains a level of evolutionary progression as a result of that interaction, because we all work with each other, and that's the same for those hybrid or full who are incarnate as well. And of course, there's not many full but in terms of the hybrids, etc., they also gain evolutionary progression. Now, don't normally become part of the evolutionary cycle because being part of the evolutionary cycle creates responsibility. So they tend to not be part of it. But as others who are part of the evolutionary cycle experience, learn and subsequently evolve, the whole environment evolves as well. So irrespective of whether an entity or a being is actually in part of the evolutionary cycle, they benefit from the work that those entities who have entered into the evolutionary cycle do. So as with the guides and helpers, they benefit through the work that they're doing for their incarnate wards, so to speak. So the would also benefit, but from a different directive. They would benefit because the environment, which is the source, will benefit. The source itself benefits, and as the source benefits, the origin benefits, and as the origin benefits, everything that is the origin benefits. And as as we are ultimately, so are the part of the origin. So they will benefit, from an evolutionary perspective, from the work that others do. Okay. So is the evolution passive or slower, since they have no function assigned to them by the origin or source entities? I'm having to ask that question, actually. I'm told that the are quite happy to go at the evolutionary pace of the environment, and that is whatever it is. It's not passive. You could classify it as being passive. How's that? Right. So rather than saying it's slower or encouraged or pressurised, it is passive. It happens as it happens because it happens. And that's the next question: is that why some of them, in brackets like you and Dan, incarnate amongst us to increase your experiential database? Yeah. I mean, for me, my understanding is it was interesting to come here and experience what others are experiencing, and to help and to be of help or service in some way, and to experience what being of service means. That's basically what I'm feeling about myself, is to experience what being of service means, and experience the joy of being of service, and that's really what it's all about. And being able to interact with individuals who are in the evolutionary cycle and see and see them struggle and succeed and do well, or make wrong decisions and then right decisions, is quite an interesting process to observe. And of course, as part of this process, we also as make the wrong decisions as well sometimes, or the right decisions, or optimal decisions, or poor decisions, or experience joy, or experience concern, because that's what part of being in the human incarnate state is supposed to deliver. Okay. Next question is a change of subject. What is the difference between a ghost and astral entities? Do ghosts... Okay, so the difference between a ghost and an astral entity. An astral entity is an entity that's created through stray thoughts by ourselves, or uncontrolled thoughts by ourselves, or incarnate individuals, or through the natural sort of Darwinian evolution of energy that's gradually gained its own intelligence through the attractivity of similar or same energies and frequencies. A ghost is basically, if I put a demarcation between ghosts and astral entities, because somebody might look at an astral entity and think it's a ghost, and vice versa. But my understanding is that ghosts are attributable to those aspects or souls that haven't recognised that their physical form was demised, and they are still attached to being on the earth as a result of that, or they're addicted to being on the earth and they don't want to go back into the energetic fully, the higher frequencies of their tests, and enter into one of the many different versions of being together with their tests, of being in communion with their tests. Okay. Do ghosts stay attached to the gross physical levels, frequency band 1 or 3, or go higher? They're not in 1 or 3, because if they're in 1 to 3, they'd be incarnate. They would be fully visible, fully solid. So the lowest they can really go is the 4th level. Okay. Some of them, like what we classify as poltergeist, have developed the ability to use energy to move things. But that's very, very energetically expensive. Okay, so it's something to bear in mind is that when you see objects moving around the room, it's the aspect or soul that's doing that is expending a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy, believe me. Does a ghost have access to chakras, or I'll read it properly? Does a ghost have access to its chakras or energy through an astral body that they retain? They don't retain any astral body. Once, and they don't have any chakras, because chakras are associated with the energy templates that create the incarnate vehicle, or vehicles of different types, of course. We're not just looking at the human vehicle. So they don't have any energy templates. And although some people classify it as an astral body, it's not an astral body because it's basically the sentience and energy that is still the essence of the aspect or soul that is deciding it wants to stay close to the earth frequencies. So it's not an astral body as such. They don't retain anything associated with their incarnate vehicle. If not, how do they exist with or without an energy source? It's sentience. Don't forget that everything we are is sentience. But we have a body of energy to allow us to experience the environment that we're trying to experience, learn and evolve. And so the body of energy is either given to us by our true energetic self, or if we are a true energetic self, we accept that energy from source, or we can detach the sentience from that energy and use another energy to experience something else if we wanted to. Okay. So sentience doesn't need energy to exist. It just is. Although it uses energy to experience, learn and evolve by being part of an energetic environment that allows it to experience it. And by using that energy, they are experiencing that energy in the way it's supposed to be experienced. Okay. So next question. We understand that backfield people come from a different type of true energetic self and are transient. Do they reincarnate in human form on Earth like us? Interestingly enough, I've just been writing a little bit about this in my current book I'm working with the Armor on. And my new understanding is that the backfield people only generally, there are the odd occasion when it's not but it's more, they only generally incarnate once, because there's such a lot of them, and they incarnate once, and their karma is dissolved by the rest of us. So in essence, although they accrue karma, and they accrue karma very quickly because they don't know how to handle individualized free will, we sort of absorb it for them. So they don't. So any karma that they have, they're not responsible for its dissolution. If that makes any sense. It's absorbed by everybody else, and we absorb it readily because, in actual fact, they're doing us a service. They're backfilling for those individuals who've ascended, so to maintain the environment in a state of so-called normality for those who haven't ascended yet. So we're quite happy to take on board the karma that they accrue. Do they evolve through the entire physical universe, or stay at levels, frequency bands 3 and 4? If not, what is the maximum of their evolution? Well, everything evolves, and everything will evolve through its own evolutionary cycle, if it's in an evolutionary cycle, or if it's attached to or part of an environment that is within an evolutionary cycle. So they basically will experience what they need to experience in the way that they can experience it, and again that would include the entire physical universe at certain levels. You know, they can quite easily and do, you know, incarnate at different frequency levels, not 3 or 4, but they can go to 6 or 7 or 8. But because they normally incarnate in a collective function, sort of like this it almost answers the next part. Are they normally hive souls like animals and plants? They tend to be, yes. They tend to be more of in communion as an incarnate soul. So even though they may have little bits of, shall we say, individualized will, that will can only operate providing it is in the best interests of the collective it's part of. So it's not like us where we can do anything we want to, and I mean anything, individually. There's no controls other than what we allow those who govern us to control us with. They are inherently controlled by a collective function of things must benefit the collective. Okay. Next question, number 5. You said that human eyes only see what the third eye is tuned into. That means we can only see what we perceive with the third eye. How could we see beyond the 3D structure and see beyond? Well, I keep reminding people we're not in the 3D, not in the third dimension, we're in the third frequency. The third dimension is a much larger piece of structure. Okay. Scientists use the word 3D to describe three types of metric: height, width, and depth, to further describe volume. Okay, so it's really the lower frequencies of the physical. So really, the physical eyes can only see what the spiritual third eye is attuned to. Now, that normally means it's only allowed to see what's in the gross physical, but there are individuals who are capable of seeing a bit above that by using their third eye, and so people can see, usually with their spiritual eye, within their mind's eye, that which is on the higher frequencies, the 4th frequency, 5th frequency, up to the 12th frequency. But when we start to get to the point of overlaying information onto the eye, if a person's working in the 4th frequency, their physical eyes will see what's in the 4th frequency. Okay. If a person is working in the 3rd frequency, their eyes will see what's in the 3rd frequency. If their physical eyes are attuned with their 3rd eye, and their 3rd eye is capable of going up into the 4th and back down to the 3rd, then they will see bits of it, sometimes overlaid on their physical vision, sometimes it's a combination of their mind's eye vision and their physical vision. Okay, so basically if somebody's in the fourth frequency, you don't see them, so your physical eyes only work on the 400 to 700 nanometer range, whereas if they were tuned to be higher, then there's a combination of the spiritual third eye working with the physical eyes. So in terms of the next part, can you offer exercises for our third eye that can help us align our third eye beyond the current images and structures? In your book you mentioned that you had help, and while it's supposed to take you 5 years, it took you less time. Since we all cannot or do not have help outside, what can you offer by way of proactive action plan, or a series of specific exercises, not just meditations, as we're already doing that, to better align and better see the current structure that our third eye is tuned into? Really, it's about meditation. One of the things with meditation is it provides a gateway to a lot of different things. And if you want to perceive what is beyond the gross physical frequencies, the thing is to meditate. But the thing is to meditate on the third eye. And so what we do is we close the eyes. Okay, we have our back straight and our feet flat on the ground, and our hands palm upright on our upper thighs. And we then gently focus our closed eyes, or our closed eye vision, okay, on the point in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And that is the location of the spiritual or third eye. It's also the location of the spiritual or third eye chakra. But the two are separate things, and they are totally independent in function to each other as well. And the idea is that you maintain this sort of closed eye stare into this area of blackness or moving colours, depending upon what the ambient light is outside, or how you're feeling. And you simply breathe. Just feel your breathing going in and out, whilst maintaining this focus, this gentle focus. And eventually you may start to see a white spot appear in the area of the third eye. And that white spot will move around. You'll find it's difficult to maintain, to keep control of. And so sometimes we can lean on our elbows, put our thumb moving the tragus of our ear to block our ears off, put our little finger into the corner of our eye, and then the remaining 3 fingers on our temple, and that locks the eye in the ocular socket on the one side. Then do the same thing the other side. So you've got your thumbs blocking your ears off, your little finger in the corner of your eye. You have to obviously be careful of how you do this to lock the eye in the ocular socket, and then the other 3 fingers are on top of or in the area of the left and right temples, and you use that as a way of means of again focusing your vision and also controlling this white dot which should appear. Now eventually this white dot you'll find is sort of surrounded by like a purpley colour, and around that purpley colour is like a goldy colour, and as you get more control over this white dot you'll start to see it has form, and the form is star shaped, rather like the Star of David. And then when you continue to focus on that and continue to make it stay in one place, you can start to move towards it eventually. And this could take weeks, months, years, depending upon how dedicated and how much concentration you've got. And then eventually you can start to move through this third eye, this star-shaped visualization or image within your closed eye vision. And then once you've done that, then you start to move into different frequencies. And that's another way of doing moving the consciousness out of the body. And when you do that, you start to see things in the different frequencies. Initially, it might be the 4th frequency, but then you can start to work out how to navigate through the 5th and 6th and 7th. And the Traversing the Frequencies correspondence courses and workshops teach people how to do this, but without using the spiritual or third eye as the gateway. Okay, so it's really a case of doing that. You can that exercise I've just taught you about locking the eye in the ocular socket by using the little finger. The thumb puts the tragus, the little flap of the ear over the ear to blank out any noise, and the other 3 fingers are placed upon the upper eye area or the area of the temples, and you just then focus, breathe naturally, do Hong Sau if you like, until you see this little white dot, and then start to try to control this dot until it comes in one place, and you can hold it in one place. Then you can start to move in towards it. Then you start to see colours change around it. Then you'll start to see it have structure. And you can move through the structure. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Okay, next question. Question number 6. What are your opinions about semen retention in spiritual development? Usually semen retention is for those who want to potentially help others to conceive if they want to, whether it's for their own family, if they feel that they need to restrict their own potential for reproduction, or they want to make sure that they can reproduce later if they know they're going to be ill, for instance, or they're having surgery which will affect the production of semen. It's not an issue. I mean, basically, the reproductive function of the human body is a mechanical function that is there, or biomechanical function that is there to allow the generation of more incarnate vehicles, and therefore an aspect or soul who wants to incarnate will study the availability of bodies versus family type versus circumstance versus environment, and then make a choice about which particular body to attach itself to as a result of that. It doesn't matter how that body is conceived, whether it's through natural reproductive methodologies, through 2 living partners, or whether it's in a test tube, or whether it's done through freezing egg cells or semen. It makes no difference whatsoever. So it doesn't affect our spiritual development at all. Okay, it's just a physical function. Okay, next question we have now from OM, who's the lovely lady who's been translating the books into Japanese. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. First question: how big in percentage is our source entity compared to the origin? I can only give you an idea, and it is only an idea, and it's only an idea for me as well, based upon the first group of 12 structures within the Origin's current volume of polyomniscient sentient self-awareness. Okay, think of it in terms, think of the sources being about the same size as a grain of sand in, let's say, the universe as a maximum size. Yeah, might even be down to a new size. Actually, they are unbelievably small. We think they're quite large, but in terms of the structure that they are part of, it's really, really small. So then it's like everything is protracted and made much, much smaller, because of the Origin has 12 sets of 12 levels of structure. And the source entities are only created through 4 levels of the first 12 sets of structure. So you've got 8 levels above the highest structural component of a source entity. So in a percentage, it's like, you know, one grain of sand and all the sandy beaches and all the planets and all the frequencies in the physical universe. At least at the biggest, I would say. It's just they are infinitesimally small, and we're even smaller. Very good question, though. Next question: what is the difference between highly advanced being/entities and highly evolved being/entities? You can't advance without evolution, and you can't evolve without experience, learning from that experience, and subsequently gaining the evolutionary progression from that experience. So an advanced entity or being or soul is usually one that's highly evolved or well evolved as well. So the two go hand in hand, really. They can't be separated out. The only thing you can get is the quality of evolution as a function of the depth and detail that the Tess or the aspect or soul has entered into to gain the particular level of evolution progression he's got through the experiences he's had. So it's really a case of, you know, those two things are together. From our perspective, an advanced soul is an evolved soul, so that the two are the same thing. Okay. Next question: it seems we find rubbish everywhere we go nowadays. Yes, I sometimes pick it up as well. I sometimes am appalled by the amount of rubbish. Okay. So the question is, I sometimes pick them up, but I cannot stop feeling disappointment, sadness and anger for those who left them. Would you share your thought processes when you are picking them up? I have the same. I am disappointed that people drop litter on the road, and I'm thinking, do they do the same thing in their house? And you know, you sort of, I sometimes have the thought processes where if I was able to access, you know, certain powers, you know, every time somebody dropped a piece of rubbish, it would appear in their house. It's a bit of retribution, that, but I think there's really, you know, I start to feel, and it's the same with people who have dogs and don't look after the dog's toilet, for instance. They don't pick it up and put it in a bag and then properly dispose of it. You know, it's not being responsible for who and what you are, really. You know, it's thinking that it's somebody else's job. And I know that in India sometimes there's a bit of a thought process that, you know, of course I should drop my plastic bottles, etc. It's keeping somebody in a job. Well, actually it's not. It's just perpetuating a problem. And the people who do survive by picking up and recycling plastic would find something else. So really, it disappoints me no end, absolutely no end. And when I go cycling, for instance, when I go into the countryside and I see, you know, the rubbish that's been dropped by tradesmen in a gateway in a farm in a farmer's field gateway, and I see tyres that have been dumped by somebody who's changed their tyres, it makes me feel really sorrowful. You know, we talk about how we'd like to ascend, and we'd like to be able to meet other incarnate entities from different parts of the universe, but how can we present ourselves to them when we can't even look after our own backyard? We can't. We don't deserve any consideration to join any other group of entities who are incarnate and have advanced thinking process, because we can't look after ourselves. We can't think in an advanced way ourselves. So really, I'm disappointed that people allow themselves to think that it's okay to drop litter. It is fundamentally wrong. I mean, when I see a worm if I'm walking down the street and I see a worm on the pathway, I'll pick the worm up and put it into somebody's garden. I don't just leave it there, because the worm does a job. It aerates the soil. So you have to think about these things. Doing something as picking someone else's litter up is providing a service that they should be doing for themselves and us. And I do wonder whether these people would be happy for the bags of rubbish that they drop on the streets to be dropped onto their living room sofa. So I laugh about it, but it is horrifying to see how we don't look after ourselves and our environment. And that's with how we eat as well. I mean, we're eating so much processed food and so much preserved food. It's not doing us well. That's why people are becoming fat and large, because the preservatives within the food is very easily absorbed by the body, but the body can't use it in terms of using it for energy. So it stays on us. So I don't. I find it very difficult sometimes. I find it very difficult to understand why people can't be responsible for themselves and their environment. Next question. I'm just wondering, how much does the origin love us, and how much does our source love us? Is the origin's love bigger than the source's? From a volumetric perspective, yes, it is. But then again, if you understand that the source is a smaller individualized unit of the origin sentience, then of course the origin loves the source. And in loving the source, it loves us. So anything that is part of itself, it loves. So even the smallest aspect of the physical, which is within our source or other sources, is loved by the origin. So everything, when it's in the greater reality, loves everything else, because it's all part of itself. We're part of the source. We're part of our Tess. Tess is part of the source. Our source is part of the origin. So everything, there's no separation. There's just temporary individualization. So everything is loved. And does the love us too? The is. I'm just asking the question. They're delighted with us. They also wonder about about mankind's housekeeping problems. They love us, and they fully respect that there are entities who want to enter into the difficulties associated with being in a lower frequency to assist in the evolutionary process. Okay, so they do respect us, and I think that respect is a loving respect as well, from what I can pick up here. And the last question here: what is the void? Would you give us a definition? In my understanding, void is basically emptiness. It is a vast volume of emptiness. But that's only a human definition, because nothing is empty. Everything is complete, everything is full. Just because we can't detect it with our eyes, our hands, our feet, our nose, we can't smell it, taste it, touch it, be it, it doesn't mean it's not there. So although we might see void in between star systems or planets, etc., it doesn't mean that there isn't something there. It just means that we haven't detected what's there yet, because we haven't got the capabilities or the focus with our spiritual third eye at the moment, because our machines are based upon the visible frequencies, and just above and just below of the physical third eye. The infrared and the ultraviolet are functions of the visible range, the visual range, and things like X-rays and that sort of stuff are basically a little bit higher than that, because they're based upon really capturing the reflection from an object that is created through the exposure to the loss of electrons as a radioactive substance starts to decay. So really, void is basically complete nothingness, but there is no such thing as complete nothingness. So void is something that's been created by mankind to describe something that they can't detect at the moment. Okay, but they don't realise that they can't detect it at the moment because they think that there's nothing there. When they can detect it, they'll realise there is something there, and what is classified as void will no longer be void. The word void will be void. Okay, well that's the last of the questions, and it just gives us plenty of time. Actually, we've gone quite a long time. I'm surprised to go into the meditation now, which is to create peace in the world. And I know I've done this a number of times, but I'm really feeling that it's necessary. And I think along with this, we should also incorporate this possibility of being responsible for ourselves and our actions within our environment and maintaining our environment. It's interesting that I always refer to how clean certain parts of the world are. I always thought that Japan was very clean, and also some parts of China are very, very clean as well. And there's other parts of the world that aren't. And every time I see, rubbish on the side of the road where people have left crisp packets or McDonald's wrappers, all over the street, it makes me very sad. That people think that the environment can be abused in such a way. Okay, so close your eyes, sit in your straight backed chair with your back erect, straight sitting uppermost, your hands, palms uppermost, placed on your upper thighs, and your closed eye vision focused on the location of your spiritual or third eye. Spiritual or third eye is located in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And just allow yourself to be like a lighthouse. Imagine your frequencies being very high. Imagine them surrounding you in the same way that the layers of your aura are manifest just around you, and then broadcast these high frequency energies out from your body allow it to move out of the room that you're in, having previously engulfed the room. Allow your energies to move out into the whole house. Your energies are irradiating out, past the house, past the garden, spreading out in a circular fashion, engulfing the suburb that you live in, engulfing the city that you live in, engulfing the county or location that you live in. then engulfing the country that you live in, then engulfing the continent or landmass that your country is part of, and then spread it around so it fills all other land masses and the sea, so that your energies that are spread from you as this being referred to as a lighthouse of high frequency is spreading all around the world. Just feel and ask for your overall frequencies to be elevated. Feel and project love to everybody. Feel and project forgiveness to everybody. Feel and project the feeling of just total calmness. Feel and project forgiveness to everybody. Forgiveness of yourself in things that you've done. Forgiveness to what things have been done to you by somebody else. Forgiveness of what you've done to the environment. Forgiveness of what others have done to the environment. Forgiveness of the circumstances that have been created by yourself or by others that you consider to be suboptimal. Feel and project peace. Everybody is working in a beneficial way. There's no selfishness, there's no jealousy, there's no need to overpopulate. There's a feeling of enough. Enough is enough. There's no need to have too much. Feel and project contentment with existence. feel and project an inherent state of beingness, surrounding a need to be in communion with each other, loving communion, peaceful communion, being of service to each other, not needing or wanting personal or group gain for whatever you're doing. Feel and project a feeling of understanding. Everybody's point of view is understood and recognized, and considered against the greater need of the whole population of the earth. Broadcast, spread, or project a feeling of oneness. We're all one. Project a feeling of, once we recognise everybody's viewpoint, that those viewpoints are not so much negotiable, but they're malleable, that everything has a median, so to speak, to work with. Everything has a road, a middle road that we can all walk down, that means that everybody is satisfied. Therefore there's no jealousy, there's no haves and there's no have-nots. There's simply a median or an average that everybody has. See us all in this golden age of being content and happy to work with each other, to help each other achieve our level, or to help us to achieve a higher level collectively. This creates peace and contentment and a higher frequency nature. It allows us to become higher frequency and therefore connect with Source and know that we are part of Source. This knowledge levels everything out, stops us being competitive. So just hang on to that feeling for a moment longer. Feel how wonderful it feels to be at peace with yourself, your neighbour, your neighbour's neighbour, people in other countries. Everybody who has a role to play is an equal, irrespective of so-called status. There is no status, there is just roles to play, and to do the best we can for Source. And be content with what we're doing, and be content with others, and help others to also strive and be content, but also being responsible for our roles here. So now you broadcast this feeling around the world, encompassing the world, engulfing the world. You can keep it there, just detached from it, like you let go of a balloon. So you don't need to withdraw it or contract it. You've created something that you can keep and be part of if you wish. But to finish this meditation, just leave it there, but just disconnect like you would cut the string on a balloon and see it soar into the atmosphere. Allow yourself to come back into your room, having disconnected, severed the link with this fantastic piece of calmness and peace and service. And contentment, taking a part of it with you to sustain you, so you have your own piece of calmness and contentment and peace, whilst you've just broadcast all over the world a loving calmness, contentment and peace that is going to affect and benefit everyone. And so slowly come back into the room. Slowly open your eyes. If you have any water nearby, take a drink of water to help ground you. But still note that you've got this feeling of contentment and peace with you. And that you've also left a huge amount of work in terms of peace and contentment and delight and service around the world as well. You can revisit this meditation as often as you like, and that'll also benefit the world on multiple levels. Okay, so that's the end of this Satsanga on the 27th of February, and just going to check the calendar for the next Satsanga, which is in March clearly, and that will be on the 27th of March, so the same date but in March. So pass on the recording if you wish to your friends, those you think will benefit from it. Okay? And send your love always, and your desire for peace always, in your meditations for people around the world. Lots of love to you all, God's love, Source's love, and I look forward to communing with you at the next Satsanga. Did you see the aliens in Crete?